So today we're going to be doing a tutorial on how to offload photos. So you should have just finished up a shoot of some kind, whether it be a weekend or an event. And currently I'm at the computer that is in the production switching room. It's the iMac in the front row to the right side. And that is our main photo ingest computer. An overview of what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be loading the photos onto the computer. We're going to be doing what's called culling them, so separating the good photos from the bad photos, or just picking the best photos out of the ones that were shot. And then we are going to do some minor edits. If you want to go more into depth in editing, feel free to do research. We use Lightroom, but I'm just going to show you some basics on like how to navigate around the program and adjust main things like your exposure and your saturation and your contrast. And then we're going to export them out of Lightroom and upload them onto SmugMug. So to get started, you're going to want to plug your SD card into the back of the computer. So on this Mac, it is located around the back. It's a thin slot. I'll show a picture of that on screen right now. You kind of have to feel around the side, and if you need to spin the computer, that's fine too. So we have two programs on the actual computer that we're going to be using. There's Aftershoot and there's Lightroom. Aftershoot does the culling for the most part. It also does like some automated editing, AI, if you will, editing. It works well for shoots done outside in brighter circumstances, not so well for the more moody indoor photos. And if you've shot on a Sunday, the photos taken indoors can get pretty moody. And so we're going, if they're really dark and moody, we're going to avoid editing in Aftershoot and edit in Lightroom instead. It takes a little longer because you have to go one by one. So now that we have our SD card plugged in, we're going to come over here and open it. It should be named EOS Digital or other, or whatever name that your camera gives the card. 100 Canon. And we can see here all the photos. So they have, I like to sort by date modified because it is easy to grab the pictures that I want based on date. I try to keep all the times on the camera up to date. So this was probably taken at around 8:30 p.m. So you should be able to locate the photos that you were taking based on the date and time. So we only want the ones from the 19th. So we're going to select this one at the top right here. We're going to scroll down, keep scrolling, and then we see it changes to the 14th. And then we're going to shift click. So all of our September 19th are selected. And we're going to go and make a new folder. They are from September 19th, but we're going to pretend and say these are from January 1st because I'm going to show you how to make a folder structure if there isn't one. So the naming scheme that we want to use is a little different, but it'll keep everything in order and easy to search. So we're going to do the year first. So we're going to do 2026 dash the month. So 01 dash the day. So 01. So that's 2026 January 1st. Select all our photos and drag them over, and it might take a little while to copy, so just sit tight while it does that. Okay, so looks like that's done. Now when we look in this folder, all of your raw photos are there. So we're going to close these windows. And we're going to go to Aftershoot. So Aftershoot is going to be your program that is doing your culling. So we'll open that. So you've got all these different options and everything. Where you're going to want to go is the top left corner, AI, cull, and edit. So we're going to create an album. And the reason that we made this folder is so that we can go to the desktop and all our photos are in here. So we're going to import that folder. It's going to ask for what kind of shoot. I say something else. Doesn't really matter. Okay, and there are all our photos. So we've got a bunch in here. I didn't shoot these, someone else shot these, so I don't know exactly what's in here. But that's where this program is going to help us. So rather than looking through every single photo, saying yes, it's sharp, yes, it's blurry, it's out of frame, this program is going to do a lot of that work. So you can see we're on the import tab up here. We're going to move over to the cull tab, and we're going to want to click on start culling, and AI automated culling. And so this is where you actually start to tell it, okay, how many photos do I want to keep versus how many do I want to discard? Depending on how many photos you have, you can be more or less strict. There's 177 images, as you can see up here. I usually use extreme because out of all the photos, it's usually about 10 or 20% that are good. So I'm going to leave it on extreme, so we can click on start culling, and you'll see our magical unicorns are culling your images, and it goes pretty quick. So it should only take about 30 seconds, maybe a minute if that. So it has gone through and selected what it thinks are the best photos. It gave us 17 for sure, 100% it likes it. It's given us 62 that it says maybe. And so usually I will export. Again, like we said, it doesn't do well with auto editing the darker images, so we're just not going to bother to use the editing tab in here. But if you are shooting outdoors and it's a little brighter, you can, after this, head over to the edit tab. I like the Krispy Kreme preset that they have. You will basically tell it, okay, I only want... Back here you can see it said the 5 and the 4 stars, or the green and the blue, were the selected and maybe. You go back to the edit tab, and I'm only gonna have it edit the 4 and the 5 stars because those were the best ones. So if we hit edit, it'll go through, edit them, and then the exporting process is the same. So we're going to go back to cull, and we're going to export. And we're going to export straight to Lightroom. Not Lightroom Classic, we're just going to Lightroom. So it should automatically open that up. Yep. If it's not signed in, we'll have the password to Lightroom linked. Of course, everything is updating. Okay. And so these are all the photos that it thought were good. We're going to go ahead and create a new folder. We're going to call it same naming scheme as we used last time, 2026-101-01, so 2026 January 1st. We're going to create that album, and we're going to add those items. And you can see we have a weekend experience folder. We are actually going to add a couple folders to this. So to add a folder, so this is for the tutorial, we're adding a 2026 folder because it isn't here yet. But normally you will just put stuff in the 2026 folder under weekend experience. If you're uploading photos for a different event, likewise, we're going to go through here and clean it up. You'll see a 2025 folder and a 2026. And then, you can just name it based on the special event, Illuminate Conference, Family Worship Night, Good Friday service, just whatever makes sense so we can go and find it later. We have Seek Nights. Again, we'll have a 2025 and 2026 folder. We'll make a folder first. So we'll go... You want to click on where you want your folder to end up. So we want it to end up in Weekend Experience. So we're going to add click on the plus button and then create folder. And we're going to call this 2026. We're going to hit create. Okay, and here we go down there. So we'll click on this. And there's no albums in here yet. Well, at the very bottom, there's the album that we just created, and we're just going to go ahead and drag that into 2026. And there is our first album for 2026. So you can see how as you add more, they're going to automatically sort themselves. And so the newest album will be at the bottom, as we go to February, this will be 2, and March, but it has to use that same naming scheme. So please try to, as best you can, use this naming scheme for everything so we can keep everything organized, and the person after you can come in and find the photos that they're looking for. And if you get it wrong and need to change it, you can just right click and hit rename album, and fix whatever you need to in there. So we're going to click back on this album. We can actually hide this for now up in the top left, and then we are going to click on our first photo, and we're going to go to full view. So you see now once we go into that single photo view, we have all the editing knobs and dials and sliders that come up on the side. We'll get to those in a little bit. And now we're going to go through and pick the photos that we actually want to keep. So a couple criteria that we're looking for. One is sharpness. Is the image sharp? 2, exposure. Is the image exposed well? And then 3, composition. Is it composed well? And so I'm going to give small critiques as we go through these photos, and hopefully you can kind of pick up on what we are looking for. So this would be an example of underexposed. You can fix a lot of these in editing, but ideally we want to be shooting for the best quality image in camera. For time's sake, we're going to go through and be more harsh with this culling. So you have your arrow keys on the keyboard in front of you. You got your left and right arrow keys. And then on the opposite side of the keyboard, you have your Z and X. So if you look down here in the bottom center of the screen, if I hit Z, the little check bar shows up and it says pick. If I hit X, it rejects it. I usually only hit Z on the photos that I want rather than accepting and rejecting every single one. So we're just going to focus on the ones that we like, and then we're going to hit Z on those. I'm going to go through here, and you can look at the bottom and see if there's any duplicates as well. Can raise that bar, make it a little easier to see that. So we can see down here on the left, that's really the only shot we have of that. It's a little underexposed, but the composition is very good. He's in the center. There's a little bit of padding all the way around. It's level, so we're going to keep that one. It's the only one of that. Okay, here we've got multiple shots of her. And so when it comes to shooting people, you want to look for a good facial expression, something that someone would want to see themselves as in a photo. And so we've got a couple here. None of them are really amazing, but the first one's probably the least offensive. So we're going to select that one, and we're going to skip the other 2. You can see this one, the main person's out of focus, but there's someone in focus in the background, so we're not going to select that one. You're going to see a lot of funny faces going through this. That one I kind of like because it is highlighting the back of the shirt, so we're going to pick that one. Here we have an example of a lot of photos of the same thing. If it's hard to pick a photo because they're all very similar, don't stress too much about it. Just pick the one that kind of your gut feels like. There are a lot of photos that are very similar, and you're not going to, make or break it by picking one that's slightly different. I personally like this one because the toddler's turned around. It has his face at the camera, so we're going to pick that first one. And we're just going to keep going through and doing this. So that's a great photo. Oh, I like that he's pointing right there, so I'm going to take that one. I kind of like that one because she's talking to the daughter. Again, just kind of go with your gut, what you feel like looks good, as long as it's in focus and framed well. It should be usable. This one's all right. We'll keep that one. Again, an example of a lot of photos back to back that are very similar. He's looking right into the camera for this one, which I really like to see. So we're going to take that one. You can see it goes pretty quick. We're about halfway through. We're going to pick that one. She's smiling and you can see her face. It's not covered by a streamer there, so we're going to go with that one. This one's composed a little bit off to the side, so we're going to skip that one. She's not really smiling or very engaged in any of those photos, so we're going to skip those. That one's cool. I like that one because the ribbon's kind of in a curly Q and she's got her mouth open. She's smiling and engaged. And we'll take that one too. So I'm just going, and the ones that I say I'm taking, I'm clicking Z on the keyboard and you'll see the little check mark show up. That one's okay. We're looking for the best of the best with these photos. So we already have a shot of one of the backs of those shirts, so we're gonna skip on those. We don't need duplicates. Like this one. That one's great. Praying over people. See that one, the main subject. You can kind of see who they were going for right here, but they're out of focus, so we're gonna skip on that one. And there's no defined subject there, so we're going to skip that. Same with this one. The background is in focus. We're going to skip. So this is an example of an overexposed photo. You can see up here in the top right, we've got a really high peak on that end. This is a histogram, so everything on the right's white, everything on the left is black, and the gray is in the middle, so it kind of shows a spread. We can see here if that is recoverable by bringing that exposure slider down, and it is, and the composition's good, so we're going to keep that one. Got some duplicates. Those are a little out of focus. Don't love any of them. And then this one, I like that one. He's framed up a little more in the center. Okay, so that's all the photos. We got through about 70 photos in maybe 5 minutes, but remember we started with 177, so that initial program really took down the number that we needed to look at. So now we're going to sort by the ones that we selected. So you see how we've been adding this little check mark? Well, now if we go here to the top for the filter, if that bar isn't showing up, you can click the little filter icon up here at the top center. We can click on the flag with the check mark in it up on the top left, and so we click that, and oh, now we are down to, how many photos is that? It's not going to tell me. 18 photos. So it's a lot more manageable. And we're down to really the best of the best, so we can work on editing. So we're coming back to this first photo. As you can see, we're kind of going in rounds. We do that first round of culling with the after shoot. We do the second round of culling manually, and now we're into editing. And it's better to do it that way because if you try to edit as you go, you end up trying to fix photos that are maybe not worth spending time on, and you spend a lot of time editing and massaging photos that maybe are not the best photos because you haven't seen all the photos yet. So it's good to do those culling rounds first and then go back and edit your photos second. So we have this one here. Initially, things I see, it's a little underexposed, so we're going to go to our exposure slider over here and bring that up a little. It's always good to go more than you think you need to and then pull it back because it kind of lets your eye adjust to the image. So that's good right there. And then it looks very blue. You know, you can see it in the histogram here. The green and red are low and the blue is way up. So that's going to be our white balance. And so if we take it and drag it toward the yellow side, we're going to get some of her skin tones back in there. And that looks much better than it was. All of these sliders, you can mess around with them. And if it really breaks the image, like I take the pink way over here, and I don't like that. You can double click on the slider and it'll bring it back to originally where it was. So it was at a +6 before we started messing with it. It'll bring it back there if you double click on the slider. I always like to add a little bit of contrast to my images just to really make them pop, and then we can boost that brightness even more. You can see this photo is particularly grainy, and so we're going to come all the way down. Where is it at? To the manual noise reduction, and we're just going to bring our luminance up a little bit, and that's going to knock down some of that really aggressive grain. It's not going to make it muddy. If you go too far, the whole thing starts to look like an AI photo, and we don't want that. So it's okay to have some grain. It's natural for photos, but if it's really, super noticeable, you can bump that up just a tiny bit. And that honestly looks good for this photo for me. Not every photo is going to be absolute perfect. They're going to have some character, so we're just going to move on to the next one. This one is already about 90% of the way there. That's what her skin tone should look like. It's exposed pretty well. I might just turn up the vibrance a little bit, just really make those colors pop. And then maybe the contrast a tiny, tiny bit. So you can see the difference there. We really didn't change much, but just that little extra pop. The vibrance and saturation sliders are very similar. The way I use them is basically slide your vibrance if you want just the colors to pop, and you don't want to affect the skin tones. Our eyes are very sensitive to skin tones, and as soon as you start changing them too much, your eye's going to go, does that person look sick, or is there something wrong with them? And so if you just want to change the color of the image around the person, use the vibrance slider. If you want to change their skin tones, use the saturation slider, because it's kind of changes the saturation of the image evenly. And a good trick is if their skin is too saturated, like you want her shirt to be that dark blue, but now, her skin's all messed up. You can actually take the saturation slider down and it'll kind of balance that out. And her shirt will still be that bright blue, but see, her skin does not look unnatural. So these sliders kind of work together. Okay, we have a very similar image to the last one right here. So what we can do is actually copy the edit that we used on this image to the next one. So if you hit Command C and Command V on this image, it gets us 90% of the way there. And then we can, tweak our exposure a little bit if we want to. But honestly, I like that where it is. So that's, if you have a lot of similar images back to back, you could use that copy and paste the edits trick. So here, this is also a little bit underexposed. So I'm going to take my exposure and bring it up. Shadows are pretty dark, so I'm going to bring those up a little bit. And then add some contrast. And then again, this image is really cool. So I'm going to take that slider farther than it needs to go and then bring it kind of back to where I want it. I'm going to do saturation here and you can see if I take my saturation slider too far, the skin really starts to break down because of all the colored lights that we're using. So I'm actually going to back off on that a little bit. Just to keep it looking a little more natural. Yeah, that looks good there to me. Especially in these darker areas, not all the images are going to have nice skin tones, but you can see if we go back to the original, we're way better off. There's actually some character in the image. It's not all just kind of grayish blue. So that's really what we're looking for. And so again, we can see the next image coming up is very similar. So I'm just going to Command C. And then Command V on the next image, and look at that. It brings it almost exactly where we want it. So I'm going to bring the saturation up a little bit more again, and yeah, I like that. And so we're going to go to the next one, and we're going to Command V. His skin looks a little bit yellowish green there. So we're going to play with the sliders back and forth until we like it. Yeah, that's a little better. And so moving on along, Command V. Looks good to me. We're going to go to the next one, Command V. Still a little bit blue there, so we're going to add a little bit more yellow. Try to get those skin tones looking natural. There's only so much you can do in those really heavily colored lights. Pump the vibrance a little bit. Looks good to me. We're going to Command V that again. Okay. So the Command V is not always going to work. If your base image that you're working with is not similar enough, it's going to break it. So we're going to Command Z to undo that. And we're going to start from 0 for this one. So it looks pretty well exposed. I'm just going to up my contrast again. Maybe bring down my highlights and up my shadows. That looks good to me. I'm going to take my temperature up, and there we go. We can see her skin tones are looking a little more natural there. And then we're going to up our vibrance, really make those colors pop. And that looks good to me. So you can see we started with this image and ended with this one. Just moving a basic couple sliders, not making any drastic changes, but it makes a big difference. We're going to try pasting our preset from before. Don't love what that's doing to the image, so we're going to undo that. And we're going to bring our color temperature up. You can see his skin is just going really pink. So we're going to dial that back. We're just going to up our contrast there. And then maybe add a little... Oh, there we go. So if we add some more green, his skin tones start to look a lot more natural, and we can push a little more warmth into that. So it's really just trying to look at the image and see what it needs. So we saw his face was going pink, so we added the opposite of the pink. We added some green, and it made the image look a lot more natural. So moving to the next one. Same with this guy. Okay. We're going to go there. See our before and after. That looks a lot better. That's almost the same image. So we're going to go Control-C, Control-V. That looks a lot better. These ones, the skin tone already looks natural, so I'm not even going to mess with that much. I might turn my exposure up just a tiny bit. Never hurts to add a little more contrast, really make the image pop. And then we're just going to add a little bit of vibrance, really make those colors come out. You can see before and after. Those two are very similar, so we're going to copy and paste. Got another blue picture. So we're going to add the yellow back in, go farther than you need to. And honestly, I kind of like that better. That's why I always go a little further than you think you need to, because you don't know what it's going to look like till you get there. That honestly looks good as is. Add a little contrast. Warm that up. See? Brought all that blue out. Go on to the next one. Warm it up. See her skin's maybe a little green there, so we're going to add some magenta. That looks a lot better. And then we're going to click on our vibrance, make her shirt a little more blue. That looks great. See the before and after. Man, it looks like a different image entirely almost. And it doesn't hurt to leave them stylized too. You know, we've kind of got a two-tone, the white and the blue and the black here. So you don't have to get rid of that if it's serving the image well. Still add a little bit of that yellow, and then I'm just going to add some contrast. Really make those darks dark and those whites white. And I like that image. So that is it for the editing. So I'm going to go back to this larger view and see all of our images. It's a pretty good number. Anywhere between 15 and 20, honestly, is a great amount for like a 1 or 2 hour event. So now we're going to export them and put them in the SmugMug, because SmugMug is what we use to share all these photos so that other ministries can use them, so we can put them on the website, so we can use them in graphics, so we can post them on social media. That's really the backbone of after we've gone through and edited, sharing them with the rest of the staff and volunteer team. So we're going to click on one, and you can shift click these to select them all, or I like to click on one and then hit Command A that will automatically select all of them. We're going to command click or right click. We're going to export photos, and we're going to hit export. We're not going to use one of these presets. So that will bring up a new window right here where we can preview them. And over here, these settings should be good already, but it doesn't hurt to double check. So we want to export them as JPEGs. We want to upload the full size, the full dimension at 100% quality. We want to name them. I usually like to add in the name what the event was along with the date. So let's say this was a weekend service. We would put weekend, and then we can do our naming. So 2026-01/01, that's a plus, -01. And then if you click off of it, it'll automatically reset this to 0. Output sharpening screen, that's fine. Amount standard, sRGB, that all looks good. So we're going to go to export, and then it's going to ask us where do we want to put these. So if we go back to the desktop and add a new folder, we can create this folder and do the same thing, 2026-01-01, and then we're going to say JPEGs. So we know that it's not the RAWs that we've imported. So we're going to create that folder, make sure it's open, and it will export them. So you'll see the little counter going in the top left right there. While that is going, we can go to Chrome and go to SmugMug. I have it bookmarked right here, but you can just type it in search bar as well. So we've got SmugMug right here. We're going to, it's already logged in, but you can go to login in the top right corner, and we will have that password available as well. So once you get actually logged in, if it's not logged in already, we're going to go to Organize right here. And so under the Organize tab is where we are actually going to upload the photos. So same as before, Weekend Experience. We're going to make a new folder, create folder 2026, create, and then we're going to create a new album, or what do they call it here? Gallery. Same thing as an album. So we're going to do same thing, 2026-01-01. What I like to do here is if there are any special things like a baptism or a child dedication or Connect Sunday, or there's something special going on that Sunday, I like to add that on the end, so it's easy to go through and find those Sundays. So it's not actually, but let's just say this Sunday was a child dedication. Okay, so we'll have the date. We always want to put that first, and then we can put child dedication on the end so we can find it, those photos if we need them. So we're going to go to create. We're going to go back to our folder that we just made on the desktop so we can see it's these with the JPEGs. Should have all our photos in there. Yep. And then we're going to, again, shift click. You can also use the Command A trick in here. And then we're going to drag them. And once these are done uploading, you're done. That's the whole process, start to end. Once they are in SmugMug in the correct folder, your work is done. You can take the SD card out of the computer, take it back to front of house or wherever the SD card holder you got, put the battery for your camera on charge. Yeah, that's it. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. If the process changes at all, we'll update this video or make a new video. Thank you all for being photography volunteers, and keep killing it.